Oh, hi! This week, we're starting off with a bang, and I'm doing the t-shirt quilt that I have been attempting to do for over 10 years. I have so many shirts. I started working on this a few years ago. Super didn't know what I was doing because current day me still doesn't really know what she's doing. I've had lots of you give me lots of tips and help and literally send me stuff that will make this better. And I feel like I'm set up for success, both by myself and by a bunch of you. So thank you for encouraging me to do this. We're starting the new year off with a fresh start. We're gonna get rid of some literal baggage and do one of those projects we've been meaning to do for a third of our lives. It's fine. Also, I like that I freshly cut and colored my hair, but can't be bothered to not be wearing my heating pad. I hurt every day, but some days are a lot worse than others. And I'm about to embark on a lot of sewing and ironing and just throwing big swaths of fabric around. So I'm prepping myself for it. I'm not gonna take this off because it's helping me. And why hide that with all the other shit I overshare about? Like, do you think less of me because I'm wearing this? If you do, you can fuck right the fuck off. But I'm sure lots of you have shoulder and neck and arm pain because if you're like me, you just can't keep your hands still and need to be making stuff all the time. So anyway, here's what you need. I may need to make another pot of coffee for this. I dug out from the depths of my sewing studio the bag. You know the one. This is just full of all the t-shirts. They're all picked out in a specific color scheme. I think I did some math to figure out exactly how many I had. I don't know what I'm touching. I don't recognize this. This is also indicative of how long it's been since I've touched any of this. We could probably guess from the hair what year this footage is from. So we'll take account of how many shirts we actually have over at my cutting bench after. I have this giant chunk of red flannel that Cheryl sent me because she's the nicest. And I have a bunch of scraps of this plaid flannel that fits the color scheme from when I had to make a custom set of fitted sheets. Then there is, I don't even know what kind of batting, but I remember it being queen size. Also, I had a revelation today where I was like, you know what? If I don't have enough shirts to perfectly fit this batting piece, I'm just gonna cut it smaller. And then apparently a very important aspect of this that I didn't know, but I'm thankful I didn't work on this before I was told by both Cheryl and Jeanette that I need to use interfacing on these shirts before I attach it all together or I will have big regrets. So thank both of you for being quilting magicians. And this is Pellon SF101 interfacing. It's a woven. I used it for one other project. There's a t-shirt quilts video. No, t-shirt pillow video. I'm currently making the t-shirt quilts. I'll put a little card up here. The texture change in the t-shirt by adding this interfacing to it to make that pillow, it would not have come out as nice had I not interfaced it. And I had these like nice lined up corners that had some color blocking going on, and there's just no fucking way it would have looked how it looked. Oh, obviously, you know, sewing machine, matching thread, iron. We're gonna do a lot of ironing, I suspect. And math, oh, I think previous me made a template for this. In one of my many attempts to get my shit together this past year, I put all of my handmade patterns that could fit in here in a little binder. And here, in fact, is one that says t-shirt quilts. I think I did it like a little frame. Yeah. Also, you can iron paper, by the way, so I'm going to press this out so it'll actually lay flat. But I cut out the inside so I could still see the design, so it was centered as nicely as possible. All right, so I have a lot of numbers that don't actually make sense. I'm just going to follow this template and see what we can come up with. Okay, outfit change, which does indicate we're on to day 2. Did all of the prep work last night and this morning. I'm so tired. We're like 10 hours into this already. Here are the steps I've done so far. So I used that template that I found and cut out kind of roughly the shirts to what size I need. I'd say about 10 of them ended up being already cut out because the last attempt I made at this. Some of these I had to piece together, like this guy, and just add some panels to the side. And then when I cut out the interfacing pieces, I cut those exactly because this is woven interfacing. It wasn't going to shrink or anything when I went to iron it. So once everything was cut, I then put the shirt's graphic side down so my iron wasn't on the actual printed part at all. So once that's pressed out, you get all the wrinkles out and everything, and the shirt's gonna relax as much as it can. Obviously, all of these have been worn a lot of times before, so they're already pre-shrunk, all that shit. Make sure you wash all your things before you actually use them in this project. And then while the shirt's still warm from getting pressed out, that's when I put the interfacing glue side down. You know, it's a big piece, so you're gonna have to do it in chunks, but I pressed the glue side to the wrong side of the shirt. Now, this is what all of my panels look like once I trimmed everything up. I didn't have enough shirts. So this is the math I had done, right? So I was gonna have 15 by 15 panels. I was gonna have 6 across and 7 down. But then I realized I did not have enough shirts to make 42 panels, because that's 6 times 7. So I basically cut out the 6th column and the 7th row. So that left me with 5 columns, 6 rows, so a total of 30 shirts. I went from 42 to 30 shirts. Was still just a hair short. So I took this flannel sheet scrap. These are gonna be the 4 corners. So then I only needed 26 shirts, which is exactly how much I had pieces for. So I've been pretty dead set on how the front t-shirt bit's gonna go together. It's all even squares, but I am still undecided on if I'm going to sandwich all the layers and then bind the edges, or if I'm gonna do it with like the t-shirt front side attached to the batting, then so that right side's together, and flip it out. I laid out all of my panels, all 30 of them, and decided what pattern I wanted everything to go into. With what I have, I am pretty happy with the layout. I spent probably way too long negotiating which piece went where. So I flipped all the panels over and then numbered them. So I'm gonna attach each row together. So I'm just gonna do strips of 5, press all the seams out, and then I will very tediously pin each of those rows together, making sure that the intersections, like the seams of each shirt in each row, is attaching really nicely, because I want this to be seamless. Next time you see me, I'll be hopefully holding up a giant fucking panel. Let's do this. Eep. Y'all, look at it. It's far, far, far too big to fit in frame. It's real. Okay, so as you saw, I pressed all of the rows seams, so like all the panels across. I did all those seams. So now I'm gonna press open all of these intersecting seams. This is also wildly satisfying to look at, because it's just an even checkerboard almost. Very fitting, because most of these are ska band t-shirts. So all of these are pressed. I was all gung-ho about getting this finished tonight, but my shoulders hurt and I have to spend a while editing this anyway, so I think I'm gonna take a break, wait till there's daylight in the morning, because the room I'm gonna be doing this in is mostly lit by the skylights, and it's past 3 p.m. and we're in the desolation of winter, so the sun is gone. There is no light. Everything is dead. So we'll tackle the actual assembly of the layers tomorrow. So I'm going to practice what I preach, do some self-care, take a break. I mean, I'll still be working, but just a different form, less physically involved. It's gonna be me eating a bunch of Pringles with the dog and tip-a-tapping away on the laptop to get this edited. Oh, and I'd like to shout out my VIP of this project, which is this Teflon pressing sheet cloth thing that my fairy godchild sent me. Can you tell that, like, it's because of y'all that I'm able to do projects like this? I know I say that in like a theoretical sense, where I get a lot of support and ideas and brainstorming and just people to hang out with that also make stuff. Makes me want to make more stuff. So for the brotherhood of what we have here, obviously that has a huge positive impact on my life as a maker. But I also have a bunch of people over on Patreon, which if you are unfamiliar, I will link in the description, but all of these folks here, like, financially make this stuff happen. And then in acts of outrageous generosity on top of that, sometimes I'm gifted things like bolts of expensive interfacing and things like this. And even the iron was gifted to me. So like all of this is literally brought to you by the bog trolls. So thank everyone for everything. I can't fucking believe this project is finally happening. We're not gonna cry. We're not gonna cry. I'm gonna go rest my old bones, and I will check in the morning, probably in a different location. Ahoy! Oh, that hurt. That hurt. Okay. First off, we are clearly in our different location. There's a little bit more floor space here that I can use to lay all of this stuff out. And my arm hurts a little, not too bad actually, not as much as I was expecting, but your girl got her flu shot for the first time. I, if it needs to be said, am not an anti-vaxxer by any means. I'm just bad at follow through. So I always mean to get my flu shot every year and then never fucking do it. Clearly, working on that whole self-esteem, self-worth thing, because I went and did it. And I'm doing a dream project like this thing. Speaking of follow through, I have my big ass piece of batting. I'm gonna lay that out. Then I'm going to put my quilt top on top of that, face up. And actually, rather than trimming it up here, I'm just gonna bring this whole pile downstairs and then do the sewing. And then I'll come back up and we will get the backing on. Obviously, I have chosen to not do the binding part. What I'm doing is basting these 2 layers together. And then once I do some stitching, I think I'm gonna do a row of stitching 1/4 inch in from each edge on each and every shirt. So I'm gonna do like one of the sides of stitching, like all the stitching to the left of all the seams on the shirts to get the batting attached. So that'll really solidify these 2 layers as one. Now I can lay that back down, trim those edges, and then I'm gonna lay the flannel layer down. I will lay that right sides together on top, baste it around the edges. Then I'm gonna sew, then I'm gonna flip all of that right sides out. Gonna be fun trying to turn these corners, huh? And then like with everything else we've ever done that we've had to bag out like this, we're gonna close up that gap by top stitching over it, and then I'm gonna do the entire edge of the whole quilt with a nice little top stitch, and then I'm gonna do that set of stitches to the right of all of the seams on all of the shirts, and that will be going through all 3 layers. So yes, this is gonna show up on the back side. So there was a debate about what color thread to use, but I think I'm happy with the choices I have made here. And then, my dear bog trolls, we are finished making a t-shirt quilt. Y'all, it's done. Oh my God, I'm so tired. I could absolutely cry right now. There's a couple puckers here and there. Nothing heinous though. For kind of freehanding this shit, I'm not mad about it. I have a lot of threads to snip, but it's done. Okay, but this is not the side you actually want to see. It's such a satisfying weight. Like, it's heavy, but in a nice way, almost like a weighted blanket, I would imagine. And there's all these nice border stitches along everything. I am not mad about this. So let's do a roundup of how long this took. We'll call it between 20 and 25. And I would not have made it through this project without lots of guidance from a lot of you via comments over the years. And then I had Cheryl on hotline basically asking her a lot of questions as I went. I managed to break 2 needles today, finishing all of this up, because there are just some bulky spots where like there's seams overlapping and then the edge folded over and there's a lot of layers. And I know I went on a little cheesy rant earlier about this. Thank so many of you so much for just being so fucking encouraging with everything I tackle. It genuinely gives me a boost and helps me feel like I'm capable of doing more than maybe I actually am, which is both good and bad because I try stuff. And even if that all goes to shit, I still learn something, and I'm just so lucky, so lucky. There's one more video thing I would like to do in reference to the t-shirt quilt. If you're interested, I'm gonna put it up on my Patreon because I don't love putting a ton of stuff behind a paywall, but I do like giving them like a little extra something. So you have seen the whole project. But if you want a more personal like backstory as to what all these shirts are from, I mean, obviously they're just a lot of bands that I've gone to see, but if you want more stories about all of these shirts, I will have that up by the end of this weekend. It is New Year's Day when you're seeing this. It's about 5 o'clock on New Year's Eve, which I just realized is my favorite day of the year. There's just all this unbridled potential for the new year, and especially with how 2020's been. I know we're not out of the woods just because the clock has turned over, but I hope that you take away from this year that if you can survive this shit, you can survive anything. And congratulations on getting to the end of the year. It has not been an easy road to get here, even just from a survival standpoint. So I'm so glad that you are still here, and I'm happy to have you in a little bog troll community. Everyone here is super rad. If you have any interest in joining the Discord, you don't have to be part of anything, but just send me a message if you want a little bit more community. We've been yelling about Pyrex dishes this week, and it's made me very happy to know I'm not the only one that breaks stuff. All right, well, here's to 2021. Happy New Year. I will see you all back here next Friday with another video, and thank you so much for hanging out, because I'm all about that bass.